space. How?
Okay. So yeah, what we were saying was that because we were talking about in the spiritual world, can you change your relationship with Krishna, with God? Because it was mentioned in the last purport that in the 8th chapter, text 14, which we read last week, and it is possible, but it hardly ever happens in the spiritual world because everyone's completely satisfied whatever relationship they have with Krishna. If you're a cow in the spiritual world, you're completely satisfied, and you're not thinking, oh, it's a bit of a low position being a cow. It'd be a lot better to be a gopi or something. No one's going to think like that. Krishna, he completely satisfies every living entity in the spiritual world. And a high position, but in the spiritual world there's no conception of higher and lower and everything like that. That's our materialistic idea that we have. We think to be the boss is the best position, to be the CEO is the best position, whatever, and to wash the pots or whatever is not a good position. But in terms of devotional service, whether you wash the pots for Krishna or whether you're the temple president or whatever, it's the same from Krishna's point of view. He's if you wash the pots with love and devotion, and you're managing the temple with love and devotion, that's equal. That's equal. But I mentioned one time a devotee said to Prabhupada that a sannyasi is a big devotee, and Prabhupada stopped him and said, Who said that? Who said a sannyasi is a big devotee? He said, big devotee means big service, means you're doing lots of service. And that's what's mentioned in this verse, text 14. One who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to attain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So this is what is a big devotee, constant engagement in devotional service. Whether it's you're constantly engaged in cleaning the floor and washing the pots and, making garlands and whatever, chanting Hare Krishna, or whether you're constantly engaged in growing vegetables or managing the temple or whatever. But the main thing is, you're doing a lot of service. But sometimes we see someone that has a big position, not necessarily they're doing a lot of service. They might not be very busy. They might not have a lot to do. So that was Prabhupada's point. Just because someone's, dressed as a sannyasi or whatever, maybe they're not doing very much, but maybe the young bhakta is, more busy in service. So we have to see in that way, how much service the person is doing, not just what their position is in the social structure. Like that.
It's because that if they did that service for the last 30 years, now they're getting old, they just slow it down a bit, towards the preaching and all that, because they're physically not strong as 30 years ago. So yeah, it's that's young ones, they can do carrying the big pots and the older one.
Yeah, but then even that doesn't have to go away, the amount of service, because the type of service you're doing, yeah, I agree, that'll change. When you're young, you can lift the big pots and that. When you're old, you can't. But Prabhupada, you could say Prabhupada wasn't doing much physical work, but he was working with his intelligence.
Yeah.
He was working with his intelligence. And that doesn't have to go down when you get old. Actually, you're working more with your intelligence when you get old. When you're young, you're working more with your body probably, and you don't know much about the philosophy or whatever when you're young. But as you get older, you learn more about the philosophy as years go by, And like what I've seen a lot of senior devotees do as they get older, they're writing more. They're writing. So they're writing, you know, scriptures, books like that, and giving classes and things like that. So they're working more with their words, and more with their intellect like that. But I wouldn't say that, oh, when you get old, you can't do much service. I wouldn't say that. I'd say when you get old, you might change your service. So the service changes, but it's not that you're going to stop doing service or do less service when you get older. But
and you get end when you're in the box.
Yeah.
Otherwise, till the last moment, Prabhupada was keep lecturing that till the last moment of passing his body.
But he was still chanting right till
Yes,
the end.
he was dictating the Bhagavatam purports right till the
last breath. Breaking again.
The phone up to his mouth and he was speaking. But even the service with the deaf body is also another service. So can you hear me?
It was a little choppy, but can hear you. Yes. No, is that right, Gulshan?
Yeah, it's like in between. Just going to breath.
Okay. So that's another change of service. No, that's a shame.
No, you're going you're going into waves of being frozen.
Hare Krishna.
There's like waves of
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Now at this moment, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No?
Now, yes.
Oh, bummer.
It's like waves.
Can't hear? Hare Krishna.
No, it's good. Good now. Good now. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what we're saying. Yeah. Oh yeah. Death is just.
No. This is frozen.
This one is it? I don't know. I couldn't switch it off.
Did you change the internet carrier?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Not really. No, not good.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare.
No, nothing changed. Nothing. No. Well, I don't even announce anything. It's fine, so don't
tell Jayanti to not get on the internet now.
Can you hear me? Hare Krishna.
Can hear you. You're just freezing off and on.
Surrender. Hare Krishna.
Maybe it's me, one extra person on. That's why.
Hare Krishna.
I think it's extra load with me being on.
Oh, what?
I bet. We used to have 8 people in the class.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Let me know if it comes back on. No, yeah, she's not on the internet. No. You can hear me. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter about the picture. Don't worry about seeing. But can you hear me? That's the.
Yes.
No. Just occasionally it does play out. No, we've had heaps in the class, yeah. And I'm close to the modem, so that's not a problem. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can a picture as long as you can hear me. So yeah, dear body, and there was Christmas, and it might not be service, but one or another the service is continuing.
You explain the
Gosha,
No, it's funny. It's either not coming. The sound is it's all choppy, but otherwise it's coming very fast. You're talking like in speed.
like a fast forward now.
oh no, okay. Well, I was trying to talk fast in case it cut out. Uh,
What can we do?
No, it's you just make the best of it. That's all.
We do have every Thursday class. We got no problem in the internet. Remember?
It's me, isn't it? Right? This is a rare Thursday I've come.
We used
oh, no, it's not. We're not blaming anyone.
we have 4 or 5 people there. Fine. Something to do with your internet, Prabhuji. And Ben came the other day. You had a birthday last week.
My birthday, yeah, once a
Yeah.
year, no? Once a year.
Happy 50th.
We're 50th. Then you got to add a few more there.
It's all right. You don't look the day older than 50. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Thanks very much.
Yes. How's the boys? All right?
Thank God. Yep, they're good.
All good.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Krishna is playing with us, not the number of people. Yeah. What to do? Yeah. Anything? Hare Krishna.
Ah, yes.
Hare Krishna. You can? Let's read the
Yes.
verse. Maybe that will help. Maybe Krishna will be pleased if we read the verse.
Who's reading? I don't have the.
So
I
let's read
didn't.
text 15.
Okay.
My book is not with me at the moment.
Okay.
It's okay. You can listen.
That's right. You can
Ah.
just
Yeah.
hear it. Mamupeksa punajanma
Mamipatse puna janma.
dukalayam shashvatam.
Dukhalaya
No,
shashasham.
gone again? Has it gone again?
It's okay. It's in and out, but it's okay.
Natnuvanti maha.
Nat bhavanti mahanat.
Natnuvanti. Yeah. Samsiddhim paramam gata.
Tam siddhi param gatma.
Okay.
After,
You want to, Gulshan, you want to read the English translation?
after attaining me, the great soul who yogis in devotion never return to temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection.
Mm. So 2 things here which are very important is Krishna, he made the material world, right? So there's no better person to find out about what the material world's really about. So what do we know about the material world from this verse? We know that it's temporary. So the word used is in the second line, a shashvata. That's a shashvata. It's temporary. So no one can tell us that it's going to last forever, because that's not true. This is the truth. Everything in the material world is temporary. The whole world is temporary, and everything in the world is temporary. So don't think that anything can last forever here. It's not possible, and it's never going to happen in the future. It's never been like that in the past. It's never going to be like that now, and it's never going to be like that in the future. So it's temporary. And the other thing to know about the material world is dukkhalayam. Do you think you live happily ever after in the material? Can you ask him if he can? Tell him we're having trouble with the internet. Can he? Yes, can he Hare Krishna.
Cool. Somebody is there with you.
Hare Krishna. Better?
Yeah.
Better? Can you hear me?
It's also switched off. It's not.
Oh, okay.
It's not connected. He had left it connected,
Oh, yeah.
but it's not working for him either.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a bad connection. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. You have a guest.
Yeah. Yeah, we have people walking past here, and one person decided to stay the night here. So he's camping, and also he had a meal. So he had prasadam, and now he's going to camp the night. Mm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this can help us because, of course, we're all thinking we can be happy in the material world, but we get very frustrated, isn't it? Why isn't it working out? Don't feel bad because it's just the nature of the material world. It's not there's anything wrong with me. Oh, there's something wrong with me that I'm not happy. No, that's the nature of the material world like that. But should we get depressed about that, oh, we can't be happy in the material world? No, there is a solution. There is a solution that the real happiness is in the spiritual world. So all we need to do is find out the process of how to get to the spiritual world. And the spiritual world is opposite to here. So it's also not temporary, it's eternal. So in the spiritual world, it's eternal, and also it's full of happiness, full of bliss. And Krishna's saying the other thing we learn from this verse. So we've learned about what the nature of the material world is from this verse, that it's temporary and full of suffering. And the other thing we learn from the verse is that if we can go to the spiritual world, to where Krishna is, that we're never going to come back to this material world. Once you go there, once you go to the spiritual world, then you never come back to the material world. So that's another important thing we learn from this verse. Because that anxiety could be there, that if I get liberated, if I go to the spiritual world, is there a chance that I'm going to fall back down again into the material world? And the answer is no. And Krishna's saying that here.
A bit, Prabhu, but I'm a bit confused because I thought, I don't know, I might have misunderstood or forgotten, but that we could fall back because I don't know, as I've understood it, we came from there to start with. We were all there.
Yeah.
But we chose to come and then we came. So
yeah.
So I thought, like, even if we are there, like for instance, the demigods and all, even they are, something, I don't know, just a bit of clarification, maybe.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm a bit confused.
It is a confusing subject, and there is some controversy about how we came here, where we came from exactly, and all that kind of stuff. So, but as Prabhupada explained, is it important how you got into a prison, or it's important how to get out of the prison?
It's both, because if you know how to get in, so make sure you don't come back again.
Well, yeah, you want to make sure you don't come back again, but it doesn't really matter how you ended up getting in there. But what matters is to get out of the prison and then don't come back.
Yes.
So that's what matters more, how to get out and then to make sure you don't come back. But how you first got in there doesn't really matter. It's already been done and, like that, been and gone. So, but however, what Prabhupada explained is that, yes, we were in the spiritual world with Krishna, but and as part of Krishna, we have free choice. Krishna has free choice, and we're part of Krishna, so obviously we have free choice too, and we've misused that free choice. So, and how do we misuse that free choice? What misuse of free choice caused us to come here is that we wanted to take Krishna's position. We're his servant, that's okay. But as soon as a servant wants to be the master, then that's a misuse of free choice. And if you want to be the master, obviously you can't be the master in the spiritual world because there's only one master. there, and that's Krishna. Everyone else is servants. So if you want to be a master, so Krishna has to create another place. Krishna has to create another place for you to try to be the master, and that's the material world. So, and the first master we become, it's mentioned, is we all become Lord Brahma. So that's our first birth in the material world. So Gulshan was the Lord Brahma. He had his own universe at one point. And Deepa also. It's not just the men. So, and Deepa also had her own universe like that. So it's said that we first fall down to become in control of the universe, Lord Brahma, and then we fall down further as demigods, then we take birth as demigods, and then human beings, and even animals and plants and so forth. So millions of births, 8,400,000 species. So like that. But yeah, that we've come down from the spiritual world to the material world. And then, okay, say you do your bhakti and you develop love for Krishna and you give up your sinful activities and everything, and then you die and then you go back to Godhead. Okay, so but then Krishna's saying you go back to Godhead, then you don't return again. So what Deepa's saying, I thought you could return, but yes, you could return because, like I said, free choice is there. So you've come to the material world with your free choice. You say, no, I want to go back to the spiritual world, but then you could still have free choice there and say, no, I want to come back to the material world. So potentially you could come back to the material world, but hardly ever. Why? Because you've experienced the material world as it is a temporary place. It is full of miseries. Why, if you were in your right mind, why would you want to go back again? If you've already experienced the suffering. The first time round, it's different. The first time round is different because you'd never experienced the suffering. You'd never experienced, before you experience the material world, you don't know that the suffering is there, right? It's like, can a child touch the hot fire the first time?
Yes.
For the first time, yes. Will the child touch the hot fire the second time?
No.
No. Can the child touch the hot fire the second time if he wants to?
Yes.
Yes. But practically, will they touch it? No, because they know that touching fire equals pain. Touching fire equals pain. So they know that. But before they've touched the fire, they don't know that. And the parent says, no, don't touch. But the child still wants to touch, and then after touching, then you won't do it again. So the thing is, after you've had that experience and then you go back to the spiritual world, therefore you won't come back to the material world. So Krishna's saying that here, that after attaining me, the great souls who are yogas in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. So then you're enjoying that perfect life eternally with full knowledge, full consciousness, full bliss. That's perfect life, eternal knowledge and bliss, Sat, Chit, Ananda. So that's the perfect life. So you'd never... Jayanti has something to say.
Yeah. And Prabhupada is saying this in a letter to Vrindavaneshwari in 1969.
Speak up so they can hear.
Prabhupada is saying this in a letter to Vrindavaneshwari in 1969.
Yeah.
And this is relating, it's not specifically about general living beings, but what he says is, the great liberated souls...
Come.
The great...
I'm pulling her into the picture.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The great liberated souls and incarnations who appear from time to time in this material world are not actually coming back because they are never subject to material contamination or laws of material nature. For the purpose of delivering the fallen living entities, they come here temporarily and go back when their business is finished. And this is all under the direct order of the Lord. So the appearance of the Lord, or the great liberated souls in the material world, is different from the appearance of the contaminated living entity who is forced to take birth in the material world due to his desire to lord it over the world.
Yeah, so now Giant has explained a different category, and that's God and his servants that he's sent here on a mission. So the Lord comes on a mission, the avatar, and also some devotees come on a mission, like Prabhupada, to enlighten us in Krishna consciousness. Buddha is an incarnation like that, Varaha, Kurma, Nrsimha, like that. And the Lord Chaitanya came, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, the six Goswamis, like that. So that's a different category. So they come here just for a mission and then go back. But our situation is different. We misused our free choice. We've come to the material world to enjoy our senses. We've suffered, and now we want to go back. And then once we go back here, then generally don't come. But Prabhupada did explain, yes, because free choice is there. Technically, you could come back to the material world again, but it's highly unlikely because Prabhupada explained that when we go back to the spiritual world, Krishna still leaves us with a little bit of memory of our experience in the material world. It's like, it'll be like, like sometimes you've had a nightmare, a bad dream. You can't exactly remember the details, but what you remember, I had a bad dream. And that was really scary. And then like that, so you don't want to go back. Once you've gone to the spiritual world, you don't want to come back again to the material world. And you're enjoying so much in the spiritual world. And definitely you've got a bit of a memory that it was not a nice place in the material world. So they don't come back. So that's what we're learning from this verse, the nature of the material world. It's temporary and full of suffering. So if anyone tells you anything different, that you can, like they say in the movies, in the end of the movie, what do they say? And they walk off in the sunset, right? And they say they live happily ever after. That's a load of rubbish. That's not true. So that's the nature of the material world. But yeah, don't get upset about that, because we can find the real happiness, which is in spiritual life and our loving relationship with Krishna. And I'll tell you what, and that's what devotees experience, that the happiness of having a relationship with God, when does that happiness start? When you go back to the spiritual world or in the material world?
In the material world.
In the material world.
Yeah. So as soon as you surrender to Krishna and engage in full devotional service, that's when the bliss starts. That's when your eternal life starts, actually. It's not that we have to suffer now and then until we die, and then when we die, if we're lucky, we go back to the spiritual world, then the happiness starts then. No, the happiness starts as soon as you surrender to God. So if you surrender to God on this material body, you're in happiness.
Like, if I'm going to New Zealand, my happiness doesn't start from New Zealand. It starts that soon I step into the plane.
Or even before, when you're planning already, when you're buying your
you're
ticket.
just thinking about it. You're just thinking.
Yeah, that's right. I'm packing that.
And I'm gonna go and spend some time with the Bai and Jayanti, and we're gonna chant Hare Krishna and have prasadam and do.
When are you going, Gulshan?
Jagannath, when Jagannath say go, I'll go.
Jagannath's waiting for you to say, I want to go. Then he'll sanction it. Yeah, so it starts, the bliss, the happiness of devotional service starts as soon as we take up the process. So it doesn't mean we have to, resign ourselves that, I'm just going to have to suffer the rest of this life. No, as long as we're absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And beautifully, Prahlad Maharaj says this very beautifully. He says, Naivodvijay para durachaya vaitaranyas twadvirya gayana mahamrita magna chitta. He says that in the seventh canto. What does that mean? He says, I am not afraid in this very scary, miserable material world. He says, I'm not afraid. Even though the world is a scary, miserable place, he says, I am not afraid. And then in the second line, he says why he's not afraid. He says, because my consciousness is absorbed in your beautiful chivalrous leelas, pastimes. He says, as long as my consciousness is absorbed in your name and qualities and pastimes, then I'm not afraid in this world. So that's the secret. Is as soon as we change the consciousness, you know, it's like if the room is dark and then you flick on the switch, it's not dark anymore. You know, when it's dark, it's all scary and you can't see anything. But as soon as you flick that switch, it's all light. And then you're not afraid anymore. It's like that. So Krishna consciousness is like flicking that switch in the material world, turning it from a dark, scary, you know, place of suffering to a happy place of knowledge and the happiness of devotional service. So yeah, we get, you know, removed from this, you know, temporary world of miseries as soon as we take up to devotional service. And then even the death of that devotee is not an ordinary death. It's immediately transferred from this body to another place of service, whether in another material body or in a spiritual body. Actually, it's explained that, okay, say you have become, you know, eligible to go back to Godhead because of your, you know, sincere, you know, service attitude. So it said you don't immediately go into the spiritual world, that you'll take birth again one more time in whichever universe Krishna is there. Because Krishna is always in the material world somewhere, in one universe or another. At the same time, he's in the spiritual world. So he's in the spiritual world in Goloka, Vrindavan and Vaikuntha, playing his flute and herding the cows and doing all the things, Rasa Leela and everything. But he's also eternally going from one universe to the next. So we know he left this universe about 5,000 years ago. And where did he go? Back to the spiritual world? In one sense, no. He went to the next universe, because there's unlimited universes, right? This is just one universe of many, many universes. It's said like this universe is like one mustard seed in a bag of mustard seeds.
Oh.
This universe we're in is like one mustard seed. You know, get out that bag of mustard seeds. Can you count it? No, it's like so many mustard seeds.
And
so there's so many.
In one mustard seed, it's a 700 billion people.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and this is just one planet of many planets and one universe. So the universe has many planets, and we're just one planet out of many planets in one universe. And this one universe is just like one mustard seed in a bag of mustard seeds, you know. And but Krishna is always traveling around. He's got like a transcendental roadshow, and on his roadshow, he's going from one universe to the next. So he left this universe, he went to the next one, like that. So wherever he is, when the pure devotee dies, wherever Krishna is, so the devotee will take birth in that universe and enter into Krishna's pastime. So he'll take birth. So every universe has a Vrindavan. So every universe has a Vrindavan, a Dwarka, a Mathura, like that. So that devotee will take birth, like in Vrindavan, and he'll have a cowherd mother and a cowherd father, like that. And then he'll get, you know, just final touches of training, just the fight. So even now, like now, right, we're in ISKCON and that we're getting trained up how to serve Krishna. But the final training comes when you take birth in Krishna's pastimes, and then you'll be trained up all the little fine details of how to serve Krishna, how to make that garland for Krishna, and how to cook for Krishna, and how to clean for Krishna, and how to sing for Krishna, and how to dance for Krishna from those pure devotees there that are, you know, eternal associates of Krishna. So that's exciting. Yeah, so even that one more birth in the material world is not a bad thing, because you're with Krishna. And wherever Krishna is, that's like the spiritual world. Even like Prabhupada said, right? He was in Los Angeles, right? Which is, you could say Los Angeles in the material world, right? So 50 years ago, he was in Los Angeles in the temple. They bought an old church and turned that old church into a temple. It's still there today. You can go to Los Angeles. They've called that temple New Dwarka.
Oh.
New Dwarka. Like we have New Vrindavan, New Gokula, New Dwarka, like that, New Jagannath Puri, like that, New Varshana, like in Auckland, the temple's called New Varshana, like Radharani's birthplace is Varshana. So this is New Varshana, like that, New Gokula. So yeah, we're getting trained up, but then you get the final training from Krishna's associates. Become perfect, and then when you're completely perfect in your service, then you get transferred into the spiritual world to be with Krishna and his associates there. So yeah, what I was saying was, so Prabhupada was in Los Angeles, and he said in the class one day, we are not in Los Angeles. He said, we are in the spiritual world. This is the temple, is the spiritual world. He said, Krishna is here. And the devotees are here, and devotional service is here. That is the spiritual world. He said like that. We should not think we are in Los Angeles. The devotee thinks that I'm with Krishna. I'm in the spiritual world, like that. So it's just changing the consciousness. So like I said, as soon as we change the consciousness, then you're out of the material world. As soon as your consciousness is in the material world, then you're in the material world. But as soon as your consciousness is on the spiritual world, then you're in the spiritual world. So does it matter where your body is? Which is important? Where your body is important, or where your mind is? Where your consciousness is?
Yeah.
Where your consciousness is. If your body is in Newcastle, but your mind is in Vrindavan or Jagannath Puri, like I know Gulshan's mind's in Jagannath Puri, like that. So where are you? No, then you're where your mind is. You know, you're where your consciousness is. Like that. That is what is important, you know. So if you're thinking about, you're remembering Mayapur, you're thinking about remembering Dwarka or Jagannath Puri or where. I say you're remembering. I say if I remember like the time I went to Tirupati and saw Balaji, then I'm with Balaji in Tirupati. I'm not in New Zealand. You know, so it's where you're thinking about. If your body is in Vrindavan or Jagannath Puri, but your mind is thinking about New Zealand or Australia, that's useless. You waste the time.
Yeah.
You know, and some people like that. You know, you're living in India, but you're thinking about, oh, I want to go to America because I can make a lot of money in America and I can get a big position and everything. Then you're in America. Your body's in India, and that's so sad. You know, they should be thinking about Vrindavan, but they're thinking about America. You know, I want to go to America and I'm going to, everyone in America is rich and famous, which is a lot of rubbish anyway. I couldn't believe it. I went to California, and I've never seen so many people living on the streets as what I did in America. You know, bums living on the bench. They were lying on the bench. You know, I've never seen so many homeless people in my life as when I went to California. But if you're living outside California, everyone tells you California is like such a beautiful place, beaches, and it's always sunny there. But yeah, there's so many homeless people there. Oh my God, I've never seen so many in my life, you know, like that. So yeah, so what are you thinking about? That's what really matters. So that's why we call it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. ISKCON. You know, what's the main thing there is the Krishna consciousness. You know, where's your consciousness? It's with Krishna. You know, you can have any consciousness you want. That's your free choice. You're going to have Australian consciousness, New Zealand consciousness. You're going to have man consciousness, woman consciousness, black consciousness, white consciousness, Hindu consciousness, Muslim consciousness, you know, old consciousness, young consciousness, healthy consciousness, sick consciousness, rich consciousness, poor consciousness. You know, is it in the dualities of the material world, or is it in the spiritual world? You know, like that. So, and that's our choice. You know, where do you want to keep your consciousness? And then that makes a difference whether you're suffering or whether you're happy. If it's in the material consciousness, it's going to be suffering, you know, on thinking about temporary things. And then if you're thinking about Krishna, then you're in the spiritual world, you're blissful. You're always going to be happy. And that's beautiful because that's very easy to change our consciousness, you know. But it's very hard if you want to change your body or something. But if you change your consciousness, then automatically your body will change, you see? See, what you have to change first is your consciousness. I mean, why do we have the body we have now? Why are you in a woman's body, Deepa? Why are you in a man's body, Gulshan? Why are you in your body's Indian bodies? That's because of your, because of what? Your prior what?
Prior life, prior consciousness.
Yeah, prior consciousness. And your prior life, you had a particular consciousness in your prior life that has caused this body you have now to become created. So you created this body from your prior consciousness.
Prabhupada said that whatever you hate, and next time you get the same, that kind of body, is it? Like,
yeah, like if you hate, you know, white people or Muslims or Christians or whatever, then that's what you're going to become.
So you must be hate the Westerner in past life, Prabhuji.
No, it works both ways. It's not just hate. And also the other side, what you're attached to. What you're attached to. So I mean, if you hate women, then you could become a woman. If you also love women, you could become a woman. So what it means, you're going to be thinking about it, right? So what if you hate something means you're thinking about that thing that you hate. And also if you're lusty or love something, that means you're thinking about it. So both sides is what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
But how does, I mean, I think it's a very simplistic view. What about karma and things as well? That plays into it too, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's also an equation. That's
also.
So if you love women, right? So if a man loves women, right? And he has really bad karma too, like he eats meat and drinks and smokes and stuff. So he might become a woman in his next life because he's thinking about women, but he becomes like very ugly woman, very ugly in a very bad family in a bad country, maybe in a desert, maybe takes birth as a woman in the desert, you know, suffering, you know, and no education and very ugly features and everything.
What about those the man loves man?
Yeah, so you can get that man's body, but because that's bad karma, then once again, the man's birth would not be a good birth like that. Whereas if you're thinking about a woman and you have good karma, you're a vegetarian and you don't drink and smoke, so you might take birth as a beautiful woman and a good family and get a good education and good health and everything. So then they're both combining together. What you're thinking about and your karma is combining together. You know, say like, I really desire to get a car, okay? So, but if you've got only $3,000 in your bank, all you might get is an old broken down Toyota Corolla. Whereas if you desire a car and you've got $60,000 in your bank account, then you can get, you know, the latest model Ford Ranger, which is, you know, what we want, you know, the latest model Ford Ranger, then you can get that. So, but both of them get a car. Both of them get a car because that's what they decide. But one only gets that broken down old one and one gets a brand new fancy one. So it depends on your karmic bank balance, your karmic credits. How much is your karmic account in credit or debit? And that's where Deepa's accountancy comes in handy. Whether you have credit or
mine
debit.
is materialistic accounting. It's not karmic. I cannot keep that book.
But that there are people that keep that book for each of us. They're, you know, Yamaraj's servants, Chitragupta, and he's got a whole big team. keeping our who's in credit and debit, like that. So that's combining with your desire, and then like that, and then your karma. So it's very complicated. But for us on our side, is all we have to keep track of is, what are we thinking about? Am I thinking about Krishna, or am I thinking about rubbish? And Prabhupada was always trying to keep us on track. Like he would say, don't talk nonsense, chant Hare Krishna. That's on our chanting tape. He says, don't talk nonsense, chant Hare Krishna. So we try to keep our focus in our mind, keep our focus on Krishna. And the best way we know, what's the best way we know to keep our focus on Krishna is by chanting Hare Krishna. That's the best way to keep our mind. And what takes us away from thinking about Krishna is like this. He said, talking nonsense.
Oh.
We talk about rubbish things. Like the latest gossip, what's the latest gossip, and what he did to her and she did to him, and this and that, and how we can make more money and become rich and famous and everything. So that takes us off. Politics. I hate these people, and they're the worst, and they're crazy, and blah, blah, blah. And we've just taken our mind away from Krishna. So there's two things we always need to do. The positive thing, how to keep us fixed on the reality, on Krishna. So we need positive rules like chanting Hare Krishna. And then then there's negative rules, things that you need to avoid. So the positive things are what you should do, and then the negative things is what not to do. So like we have, for example, one positive rule, chant 16 rounds Hare Krishna. And then we have 4 negative ones. Don't take intoxication, meat eating, illicit sex, and gambling. And actually this talking nonsense and everything like that fits into the gambling one, because gambling is speculation. Gambling is based on speculation. So all this stuff, talking about, nonsense things is all speculation. That fits into that one. Of just the mind is, like Prophet said, you have a fertile brain. You have a fertile brain, too fertile. That we think too much about random things that are not really relevant to Krishna consciousness. So that fits into like gambling, too much speculation. And the mind has just gone away from Krishna, thinking about other things that are not really useful to our spiritual progress, like that. So these are things we need to keep track of if we want to stay on the path. And if you do stay on the path, you follow the positive rules and follow the negative rules of what things to avoid, then like it's mentioned here, you become a great soul. And the word mentioned here is Mahatma in the 3rd line, Mahatma. Then you become a Mahatma, a great soul. So what's a great soul? That, they're always engaged in devotion. Like it says here, yogis in devotion. So they're always fixed in their devotional service to become a great soul. And potentially any one of us can become a great soul. It's not only that Prabhupada can be a great soul, or the Indian public called Gandhi a great soul, right? Mahatma Gandhi, right? Mahatma, the word was used. But Prabhupada criticized the use of that term Mahatma for Gandhi, because he was actually a politician. I'm not saying he didn't do a lot of good things or whatever, and I'm not saying he didn't try his best to help India, but he doesn't really fit the definition of a great soul, because Mahatma means one who's fully engaged in devotional service. It doesn't mean one who's trying to rescue Indians from the British control and all that kind of stuff and involved with politics. And actually, Prabhupada said he didn't have a proper understanding of Bhagavad Gita. And actually, just before Gandhi died, Prabhupada wrote him a letter and saying, you should get out of politics immediately and begin preaching the Bhagavad Gita. And if you preach the Bhagavad Gita because you're so respected, then many people will follow you. And then he said that'll be so good for you. But he said if you don't get out of politics, you'll have a very bad end to your life. Prabhupada predicted that. And within a month or two after that letter, actually Gandhi was shot by a fellow Indian like that. So, but yeah, Prabhupada said that the use of the term Mahatma is not applicable for someone that's just, you know, a welfare worker or a politician or something, but it actually means one who's fully engaged in devotional service.
But Gandhi didn't, but he didn't give himself that title, Mahatma. It was people
I know.
who,
But
but
see,
I guess it was,
that's the fault of the people, that
but
they
at that
don't know
point,
who is the real Mahatma. They
that
don't know
at that
who's Mahatma.
point, the need of the people and the country at that time was for the independence. So that was the higher priority. And once he's there,
Yeah,
then
That was like Prabhupada's argument.
that was their priority. But the thing is, okay, you think you were suffering under the British control, and then you got independence. India got independent from the British, but has all the suffering of Indians gone away? The Indians don't suffer anymore because they're independent from the British? Could you say that? Could you say that Indians were suffering under the British, but now they're free from the British, they're not suffering anymore? The suffering is still there.
yeah,
What is
but
the
the whole
suffering now?
world is suffering in different.
Yeah, material
Yeah.
world is suffering, whether it's the British is sitting on your head, or another Indian is sitting on your head, or an Australian is sitting on your head.
That was the
But
verse. Dukhalaya
Dukhalaya Shashvatam, you know, you can't escape that. Just by changing from the British to some other dipstick is not going to, you know, make your life better as long as you're in the material world. I mean, still, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi is there, whether you're an, you know, Indian under the British or Indian under the other Indians. There's still birth, old age, disease, and death. You can't escape that. So it's not really changing that. One time a man said to Prabhupada, India, he said to Prabhupada, India is the land of the Mahatmas. How come with so many Mahatmas in India, can't they counteract all the miseries, all the problems? Why, he said, why does India have so many problems if India is the land of the Mahatmas? And Prabhupada said, the reason why there's so much suffering is in India is because the people do not know who is a Mahatma and who is not a Mahatma. And they think that the person that is not a Mahatma, they think he is a Mahatma. And the person that actually is a Mahatma, they think he's not a Mahatma. So it's completely, Prabhupada's point was that the Indian public have got it completely backwards. They put on a pedestal someone as a Mahatma that's actually not a real Mahatma. And the person that is the true Mahatma, they don't give him any respect. They don't give the true Mahatma any real respect. They don't try to help.
But at that point in time, who was the other person that was not being recognized as Mahatma?
Well, I'll give you an example. Prabhupada himself. Who in India tried to help Prabhupada to spread Krishna consciousness? Who? Nobody. It was like zero. Even Prabhupada's own godbrothers, sorry to say, even Prabhupada's own godbrothers refused to help him to spread Krishna consciousness around the world. You know how much help he had to get to America? Like nothing. He went there with 40 rupees, which was $8 at the time. He had no help. He had actually one help, was actually not even a devotee. It was a lady named, no, well, that's there. No, but what was the Indian lady in charge of the shipping company? Skindia. It was the Skindia shipping company. I'm trying to remember her name. But it was one elderly Indian lady gave him a free passage on the ship. But that's the only help he got. Sumita. There's something like Maraji, yeah. Srimati Maraji. So he got hardly any help. So no one was appreciating that he was a Mahatma. He's actually the Mahatma. You know, fully engaged in devotional service, trying to serve his spiritual master and everything like that. He's always chanting and talking about Krishna. But he didn't get any credit for that, or not that they're wanting credit, but any help or support or respect or anything, assistance like that. And the politicians, they build them up on the pedestal, and then the actual devotee, they don't support like that. In fact, when Prabhupada brought his hard work, he brought Western devotees into India. Do you know what the Indians thought? What the especially the politicians and that, and what they told the people, what they thought about the Western devotees?
Don't know.
The Indian politicians were telling the people that these Western Hare Krishnas are undercover CIA. Can you believe it? How demoniac, how evil, how tamasic these people were. Instead of glorifying Prabhupada for spreading Krishna consciousness to the Westerners and making them into Vaishnavas, he called them CIA. They were undercover, and they sent them all out. They wouldn't give them visas. They wouldn't give those American and English Vaishnavas visas, and they gave them such a hard time.
But it all comes from experience and their actual experience. Because when the British came, they exploited India no end, left, right, and center. The whole reason India fell down, to me, the way I see it, and my boys sometimes say, "Mommy, you're racist." I said, "No, but that's how I see it. I mean, I'm not at all racist, but the white, to me, I mean, the Caucasians, entirely, totally, they are the ones who spoiled the whole world. The whole world, mostly everybody was vegetarian. Everyone had this sort of a lifestyle. They came with all the meat eating, and they started all the factory farming and all that to serve their needs, and they made it so they're very good with what I call advertising. They're good with all the glitz and the glamour and the riches and the everything, and they entice the whole world, and the whole world is trying to monkey them, as I say, to imitate them, and that is how it's supposed to be, and that is then success and freedom and whatever. So I mean, to me, it's and because of that experience, and India had a very, very bad experience that way, because everything spiritual was taken away from India by the British. And so when they see a whole bunch of Caucasians who are coming in and saying Hare Krishna, of course they don't trust you anymore. So
I agree with what you're saying, but however, what I would say is the way that vision is that it's just the external cause. That's the external cause of our problems, our suffering. But you haven't touched on what's the remote cause. What's the immediate, initial cause of the problem. That's the external manifestation of the problem and the suffering. But why did those, for example, Indian people get so much exploited by Mohammedans and then the British and so forth, and Portuguese and every Tom, Dick and Harry exploited, is because they turned away from their culture. They turned away from their culture. They turned away from their culture. They weren't following the duties of a Brahmana properly anymore. They weren't following the duties of a Kshatriya properly anymore. If they had, then it would have been impossible for those people to exploit them. I mean, for up to 5,000 years ago, it said Vedic culture was over the whole world. The whole world was following Vedic culture up to 5,000 years ago. Then why did that change? Because Kali Yuga started. Okay, Kali Yuga started, so what was the problem with that? Then people started quarreling. Instead of, like I said, being Krishna conscious, they started quarreling amongst themselves and fighting. Instead of the Kshatriyas doing their duty to protect the people from all these dacoits and gundas, these, Tamagoon people, they were just trying to conquer more kingdoms so they could get more followers and more riches and wealth. So they stopped doing their duty. Instead of the Brahmanas teaching the Kshatriyas how to do their job properly, the Brahmanas were just proud and arrogant and wanting to get people worshipping them and so many things like that, and trying to push everyone else down, that, you know, you all have to serve me, I'm the big Brahmana, like that. So they became proud, and then the Kshatriyas became proud, and then everything fell apart. And then, of course, once you've abandoned doing your duties, what God wants you to do, then you're gonna get a kick up the backside, and then you're gonna be suffering. So what you pointed out, that the white people, the Westerners, everything, is just a reaction to their previous bad karma. That itself is, it just happened to be a white person was giving you your reaction, but actually the cause of that was your own past activities. That's what I'm trying to say. But I agree, externally you pointed it out very well, you know, the immediate cause of all the problems, but what you're not seeing is behind that. Behind that is our own, we've gone off the path, we've gone away from God. People would point out problems to Prabhupada. We've got a crime problem, social problem, financial problem, everything. Prabhupada said out the only one problem there's not enough God consciousness. Because we don't have God consciousness, we have millions of problems. But if you just had God consciousness, then all these millions of problems will automatically go away. And ultimately it goes away when you go back to the spiritual world. Well, ultimately, all the problems go away ultimately when you go back to the spiritual world. But even if you start now, like I say, some of the problems will start going away, you know, and then it'll completely go away when you get out of the material body and you go back to the spiritual world, like that. But yeah, so I don't disagree with you on the external level, but I do disagree with you that you haven't hit the root cause of the problem, you know, until you address God consciousness or Krishna consciousness, the root cause. Like, and I'll give you an example, like modern medicine, right? Okay, you have a disease, let's call it cancer. What do? They just try to nuke the cancer, right? Chemotherapy, Gulshan knows about that. Radiotherapy, chemotherapy, right? That is that a very good process? No, because you're just dealing with the effect. You're dealing with the effect, which is the cancer disease, not the cause. They haven't dealt with the cause of the cancer. What is the cause? The effect is the cancer, is the disease. But what's the cause of the disease? Like with Ayurveda, they deal with the cause, not with just the effect. If you deal with the cause, and the effect will go away, the cancer will go away. So what is the effect? Bad diet, you know, or eating, you know, having toxic things come in your body through the food, through the water, through the air, or whatever, and, you know, like that. And just irregular habits. You know, you're not regular in your habits. You get up at a different time, go to bed at a different time, you eat at a different time. Sometime you eat breakfast, sometime you don't. Sometime you eat dinner, sometime you don't. You know, and you get up different times, and someday you do night shift, and then you do day shift, like that. So, and then you're not moving enough, you don't have exercise, like that. So Ayurveda would deal with that. What's the cause? Not just, oh my God, you've got cancer, let's blast it. But no, what caused you to get that cancer? You know, and that's more intelligent, to deal with the cause. So we're dealing with the suffering. I'm suffering because of what my wife did to me, and what the government did to me, and what my employer did to me, and everything, and what this body has got cancer and everything. But better if we look at, well, the real cause of the problem is that I have this body, because all the suffering is affecting the body. And why do you have the body? Because you turned your back on Krishna. So what's the solution? Go back to Krishna. Then you won't have to have a body, which gets affected by all these things. Anyway, you get the idea. And but yeah, I agree. I mean, those external things are definitely there. But as a devotee, we should try to see more deeper what's the original cause of the problems. I mean, Prabhupada himself, when he first met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati told Prabhupada, you should go to the West and preach Krishna consciousness, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. And Prabhupada argued with him because he was a follower of Gandhi at that time when he was a young man, 25. And he said, who will listen to us while we are a dependent nation, while we are dependent on the British? He said, first we should become independent from the British, and then we should spread Krishna consciousness. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati argued with Prabhupada and said, no, Krishna consciousness should not wait for anything else. We shouldn't think, I have to deal with the politics first, and then I will become Krishna conscious. No, first thing is Krishna consciousness. Then after that, politics or whatever you want to deal with. But Krishna consciousness should not wait for anything. It's the most urgent, important thing. Prabhupada was thinking, being influenced by Gandhi, that we should become independent from the British first and then talk about Krishna consciousness. But the spiritual master was more intelligent. No, actually, it's Krishna consciousness that's the prime necessity. If you deal with that, then automatically all these other things will get sorted out.
But not by itself, it won't be sorted out. We still need to endeavor, because being Krishna consciousness doesn't take away problems and sufferings. That's inherent in the material world, is it not?
Like I said, it's in the material world, but look at my example, right? Do I exploit people? Do I abuse people?
No.
Why don't I? I mean, I did when I was young, but now I've become Krishna conscious. I don't treat people like crap anymore, and I don't crap on anyone else. And if someone craps on me, I don't get upset with them. Now, so why am I dealing more better with people now? It's because I've changed my consciousness. And I'm not butchering animals and, eating them and stuff like that. I used to be doing all these things because I've changed my consciousness. So your material experience actually does change if you become Krishna conscious. And even, like I said, even if some suffering does come on you, it won't affect you so much because you've changed your consciousness. And you all know that, right? Gulshan, you can tell that the problems haven't gone away, but how you deal with those problems, how you respond to the problems is different now. Deepa, I remember, Deepa, when you first came, you were a lot more anxious, a lot more fear and anxiety, and you're always happy now, so, I can see that, and all of you, there's such a big difference between when you first came in the door and like now. The way you respond, I'm not saying all your problems have gone away. Sometimes there might be more, but the way you respond to the problems is a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
You might not see, but I can see. You're like completely transformed, Deepa. Completely transformed.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Not from a hippie to a happy, but from a regular Hindu to a happy spiritual happy. Yeah. Anyway, I've gone over time, but it's an interesting subject. And I know it's it's going to be hard to hear a lot of these things because you're coming from that situation where there's been so much exploitation, so much abuse and like that, and it's hard sometimes it's hard for even people to talk about it or think about it because it's so painful. The families might have been killed by the people invading people, raped and killed, and as you know, all these things. So it can be a hard subject even to talk about or like that. So I sympathize and everything. And like what it's been like in Australia, right? All the white people just bashed up all the Aborigines. And in New Zealand, the Europeans bashed up the Maoris. and exploited them. So, I mean, that's the whole material world is like that. And someone's probably going to come in another 50 years and bash up all the white people, and we'll be the slaves and, you know, probably, you know, all enslaved in that. So it's always someone's, see, Prabhupada said this is the world of the exploiters. What did he say? The exploiters and the exploited. What did he say?
That was cheaters.
Oh, no, and he said cheaters and the cheated, right? Cheaters, this is the world of the cheaters and the cheated. So now I am the cheater and you are cheated, but in future you
No,
might be
you're
the
not.
cheater. I'm cheated. So it's either now I'm on top and you're on the bottom, but in future you might be on top and I'm on the bottom. But that's whole material world is like that. I'm on top, you're on the bottom. I'm on the bottom, you're on top. So, but the only way to change that is Krishna consciousness.
God consciousness, no, it's true.
And then everyone's on the top. And we'll go back to spiritual. That's the top. You know, like all the devotees come together, we all sing and dance. Everyone's on the top. No one's getting abused. No one's exploited. There's only spiritual life can change that. Otherwise, it's not possible. And like I say, you know, we've kicked the British out of India, but has all India's problems gone away? No, then we have other problems. One Indian is exploiting another Indian, you know. So one politician is exploiting the people or whatever.
Maybe
So it hasn't.
if Gandhi had not been assassinated, you know, he may have started, like now the president is he's slowly bringing back a lot of awareness and things. He's trying to slowly, like, and also recognition of Prabhupada and things. They had that whole big thing. I mean, it's a bit late, but it's there. Like the recognition is coming now, and so it's just that the priority somehow, like, I don't know, whether what should come first.
The main point is we want to bring God back in our lives, and that's things will really start to get better. But if you don't bring God back in your life, but you try to make things better materially, good luck. But we see it doesn't really happen. Without God, it's all Maya, you know. So, and what is Maya's doing with us? She's punishing us. We know Durga has her Trishu, right? That's the Adi Atmik, Adi Bautik, Adi Daiva Klesha. She's constantly punishing us. And you might escape, you know, the punishment of the British, but then you'll get hammered by a tornado, a hurricane, a famine, a drought, a tsunami, you know, an earthquake, isn't it? You know, we have these terrible disasters and things. That's Durga. Maya is punishing us. You don't want to become God conscious. You don't want to surrender to Krishna. Okay, take this. You know, so anyway, Jayanti's saying I have to let you go. Okay, so have a great week. All the very best.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.